Imagine standing on a Caribbean beach in 1492. The horizon is pierced by massive wooden ships, unlike anything the native people have ever seen. As the vessels approach, a moment of awe fills the air. What wonders, what stories, what treasures might these strangers bring? But hidden within the sails and steel is something far darker. The arrival of Christopher Columbus marked not just the discovery of a new world, but the beginning of one of the greatest tragedies in human history. So, who was Columbus really? A fearless explorer who connected two worlds, or a ruthless conqueror responsible for death and destruction? This is the story of Christopher Columbus, explorer or killer. For centuries, schoolchildren around the world have learned the same tale. Columbus, armed with courage and determination, sailed across the Atlantic in 1492. Defying those who believed the earth was flat, he discovered the Americas. He became the man who opened the new world. But history, when examined closely, is never that simple. Columbus didn't prove the earth was round. Scholars already knew that. He didn't discover a new land. Millions of people were already living there, with rich cultures, economies, and traditions. So why does the story of Columbus often leave out the darker chapters? The answer lies in the myths built around him. Myths that turned him into a hero while silencing the voices of those who suffered under his rule. Christopher Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy, around 1451. A sailor from a young age, he dreamed of finding a faster route to Asia. The riches of the East, gold, spices, and silk, were the obsession of European empires. Columbus believed he could reach them by sailing west. After years of rejection, Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella finally agreed to fund his voyage. They promised him titles, wealth, and even governance of any new lands he discovered. For Columbus, this wasn't just about exploration, it was about power and fortune. In August 1492, he set sail with 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. By October, after weeks at sea, land was sighted. Columbus and his men had reached islands in the Caribbean. To the Taino people, the strangers seemed almost godlike. The Taino lived in societies based on farming, fishing, and trade. They welcomed Columbus with gifts, food, and hospitality. But Columbus saw something else: gold jewelry, ornaments, and the potential for wealth. In his journals, Columbus described the Taino as generous, gentle, and innocent. He noted that they shared freely, had no weapons, and could easily be converted to Christianity. But in the very same passages, he revealed another thought. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subject them all. That sentence foreshadowed what was to come. Columbus's mission quickly shifted from exploration to exploitation. He wanted gold. When the Taino did not provide enough, Columbus demanded tribute. Every adult over 14 in certain areas had to deliver a quota of gold dust. Those who failed had their hands cut off. The dream of riches soon turned into a nightmare for the native people. Columbus and his men enslaved hundreds of Taino. Women were taken as concubines. Rebellions were met with brutal suppression. Villages burned, leaders executed, families torn apart. Bartolomé de las Casas, a Spanish priest who witnessed these events, later wrote, "They made gallows just high enough for the feet to nearly touch the ground, and burned the Indians alive in groups of 13. The numbers are staggering. Historians estimate that the population of Hispaniola, the island Columbus colonized, was around 300,000 to 1 million before his arrival. Within 50 years, only a few thousand remained. Disease played a role. Smallpox, measles, and influenza devastated communities, but violent, forced labor, and famine caused by Spanish policies accelerated the destruction. By the early 1500s, entire cultures had vanished. And yet, Columbus's voyages undeniably reshaped the world. The connection between Europe and the Americas, often called the Columbian Exchange, changed global history. New crops like potatoes, corn, and tomatoes flowed into Europe, revolutionizing diets and fueling population growth. Horses, cattle, and wheat were introduced to the Americas, transforming landscapes and societies. From a purely historical point of view, Columbus's journey was the beginning of globalization. Two worlds that had evolved separately for tens of thousands of years were suddenly connected. But that connection came at a price paid in the lives of millions of indigenous people. So, how should we remember Columbus? For centuries, Western societies celebrated him as a hero. Cities, schools, and even the American holiday Columbus Day honored his discovery. In the 19th century, Italian immigrants in the U.S. embraced him as a symbol of pride and acceptance, but indigenous communities and historians have challenged this narrative. To them, Columbus was not a hero, but the initiator of centuries of oppression. Some call him the first colonizer, even the first genocidal figure in the Americas. The debate has grown louder in recent decades. Statues of Columbus have been protested, vandalized, or removed. Several U.S. states and cities now celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day, acknowledging the suffering of Native peoples and rejecting the one-sided hero story. It's easy to think of history in terms of numbers, but behind every statistic were real people. Imagine a Taino child watching strangers seize their village. Imagine a mother forced into servitude or a leader executed for resisting. Imagine entire communities wiped from the map, their songs, languages, and traditions silenced forever. Columbus's legacy isn't just about voyages and maps, it's about lives. Still, it's important to be fair. Columbus did not personally invent colonialism, slavery, or conquest. These forces already existed in Europe and would have come to the Americas sooner or later. If not him, another explorer would have crossed the Atlantic eventually. Some argue that Columbus was a man of his time, driven by greed, religion, and ambition, just like other leaders of the 15th century. Others say that acknowledging the brutality of his actions doesn't erase his role in history, it just makes the picture complete. The story of Columbus forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Exploration and discovery often come with exploitation. Progress for one group can mean destruction for another. It also raises deeper questions. How should we judge historical figures by today's moral standards? Can someone be both a visionary and a villain? And perhaps most importantly, how do we honor the memories of those whose voices were silenced? Christopher Columbus remains one of the most controversial figures in history. To some, he is the brave sailor who changed the world. To others, he is the man who unleashed centuries of suffering. Perhaps the truth lies in between. He was both an explorer and a killer, a man of ambition, courage, and cruelty, a man whose actions reshaped the planet and left wounds that have yet to fully heal. The ocean keeps its secrets, but history leaves its scars. Columbus connected two worlds, and in doing so, he forever changed them both. The question is, how will we choose to remember him? As an explorer or as a killer?